This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host, and today we're at Frogtown Cellars, which is technically in Dahlonega, Georgia. And I say technically because it's really kind of equidistant between Cleveland and Dahlonega, and just north of Claremont, Georgia. If you're familiar with that area of our North Georgia region, it's absolutely beautiful. Just lots of beautiful mountain backdrops and, big skies. And if you have not been to Frogtown, I'm just telling you, you're missing it. When I first moved to Georgia and people told me that there were wineries in Georgia, I was like, you just can't take it seriously. I mean, you don't even think about top-notch, high-caliber wines being in Georgia. Like, it's just not what you think of. You think of, like, great biscuits and things like that. I'm telling you, this winery can go toe-to-toe with anybody on the planet. And they have. So I'm not going to spoil it too much for you because we talk about in the episode some of their wines that have literally won awards that are so elite. You listen to this episode and you're like, all right, we're going. I'm done. I'm sold. We're going. Because whether or not you just want to sit back and relax for an afternoon and have a glass of wine on their beautiful veranda and just looking out over the vineyard, or you're a wine connoisseur and you love wines that are really, really exceptional, this has whatever you're looking for anywhere in that spectrum. So you don't have to be a wine connoisseur to appreciate and enjoy the ambiance and the setting. The architecture of the building is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's really, I know I say that on some of these, but I'm just telling you, like, why would I go spend my time somewhere that I wouldn't absolutely rave about and feature on a podcast? It wouldn't make any sense, right? So I'm just telling you, this is somewhere you need to get to at some point in the near future. And hey, why don't you plan like a Dahlonega day or a North Georgia day where you go and hit 2, 3, 4 of these things in a day? I promise you, it will be the best day of your calendar year doing some of these things and really having a great adventure with whoever your special someone or someone's are, and just get out and relax. With that as a means of introduction, we'll get started. You know how to find us online, North Georgia Life Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. You can email us at northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com. And again, just thank you for all of you who are sharing the podcast with your friends, family members, coworkers, those who are in our area that just need to get connected with how amazing our part of the world is. Thank you. You're making life better for everyone, and we really appreciate it. With that, we'll get started. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host, and today's episode is a little bit of nostalgia and a lot of excitement around it for me because this is a location I have not been to in, unfortunately, too long. We are at Frogtown Cellars. We are in the North Georgia mountains, the foothills, and an absolutely scenic drive for no matter what direction you come from. And we are here today with Sydney Kreitzer, who's part of the ownership of the property, which is an absolutely gorgeous property. Sydney, welcome.
Well, hi. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
Glad to talk about Frogtown today.
Yes. So for our listeners, so I had come to Frogtown, we were talking probably 12, 14 years ago for the first time. It had been around for, 6, 8 years before that?
Yes, the vineyard actually went in 99.
90, really? That old?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. So I came for the first time because I'd heard good things about it, and to be perfectly honest, I've learned one thing in my adulthood, which is the best vintners, the best winemakers in the world are really, really analytical people.
Oh, yes.
And your husband fits that mold.
Oh, does he ever?
So if I remember correctly, he was an attorney
Yes.
in his past life.
Yes.
And that is, if you're an attorney and you want to be a winemaker, you'll probably be a good one. You know?
Probably if you practice law the way Craig did. Yes.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Is this something you guys had in the back of your mind when he was practicing law?
Yes, I think so. We had the occasion to visit Calistoga, California in 1986, and we looked around. There was nothing there, and we said, well, we should buy property here, and we could have a vineyard. But with blooming law practice and small children at home, that was kind of impossible. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, Craig and we built a very lovely French wine collection, mm-hmm. which we have enjoyed throughout the years and which makes our palate very much a Bordeaux palate.
Mm-hmm. So for the layman, what's that mean?
A Bordeaux palate?
Yes.
That means that we like French wine.
Okay.
And we like the way French wine, of course, tastes. And Bordeaux wines are a series of grapes: Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, and Cabernet Franc, and Carmenere, which we grow almost all of those with the exception of Carmenere. So we can make our own Bordeaux varietals. Mm-hmm. California wines tend to be more intense and fruity than French wines, which are much more elegant in their taste and much more food friendly.
Okay. When I moved to Georgia, it was probably, 16 years ago, something like that, 15, 16 years ago, and I heard that there were wineries in Georgia, and I just looked at people like they were cross-eyed, like, what do you mean?
Right.
But we're really in a really good, when you talk about the globally, just as far as where we sit above the equator, we're in like prime territory.
Well, and we're most fortunate to have a length of hot days where we have a lot of sun, mm-hmm. and we have cool nights and warm days. Mm-hmm. Now, the only problem we have is we do tend to have a lot of rain.
Yeah, well,
and this year,
this year's no exception.
Especially. And a lot of folks ask me at the bar, what is all this rain doing to you? Mm. And right now, it's okay if it rains. Mm-hmm. But as soon as we have bud break,
right.
and the fruit is going to set, we don't want any rain.
Right.
So we're hoping that all this rain will just go away by April and May.
Give us a little bit of rain, but that's about it.
Please stop already.
Yeah. Because basically what happens, and I know a little bit about gardening, is, and you'll see this if you're just a recreational gardener, if you're growing tomatoes and you get a real heavy rain, sometimes your tomatoes, the skin will split, and it's mm-hmm. because the roots are drawing up so much water, it actually busts a seam, literally, in the skin of the tomato. And in the wine world, it's even more extensive because you're effectively watering down the grapes.
That too, and of course, all the rain, it makes the grapes have mold. So we have to fight that mold.
I didn't even think about that.
We don't want mold on our grapes.
No, no. Your operation here. It's absolutely breathtaking. I know you do special events, things like that here. Mm-hmm. You do weddings here on site.
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
Because it is, it literally is breathtaking. When you pull up, you'll see it just kind of perched on the hill, and it's pretty spectacular. But then when you get up and you kind of look out on the horizon from the setting you're in, it's not a bad place to come to work,
No, not at all. And we've had a lot of great advertisement about this. We were in the Napa magazine as one of the most beautiful vineyards outside of California.
Take that, California.
Yes.
I want to make sure I don't forget this because I remember years ago, I think it was Craig explaining to me you've got a wind system of sorts here in the vineyard to help circulate air.
Yes, and we only need that if we have frost.
Right. And explain, because he was telling me you start the fires and then
Oh,
you circulate
yes,
the
it's,
wind, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? I thought you just grew grapes.
Right. It's like the army out there. When frost comes, and we hope that it doesn't. Usually, we've had bud break at that point, and that's why we're going to fight frost, because the grapes, they won't produce. The vines will live, but we won't have any fruit if we get frosted out. So we have a wind machine that does blow the air and circulates it, and then we do have a helicopter that will fly too. We rent that over other parts of the vineyard to make the warm air and cold air kind of change places.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if that tells you anything about the level and the quality of wine that you're going to get here, like who else has a helicopter for air circulation?
Right.
You know, it's pretty spectacular on all fronts here. So was there a moment in time where you were like, okay, we're really going to go after our dream of having our own vineyard, our own facility, location, from transitioning from the law practice?
Yes, well, lots of people understand when your children all are in school and they're doing their own things, suddenly you have the ability to be a little bit freer than you have been in the past. And my husband, thank goodness, was at a point in his life, approaching 50. One could call it a midlife crisis, perhaps, but he decided that sitting in a chair all day was not for him anymore, and he wanted to be outside. And certainly he'd had the right to do whatever he wanted to, and he said, I want to be a farmer. And I said, well, okay, what do you want to farm? And he said, well, let's do grapes. And he had one of his clients owned a vineyard over by Chateau Allan. So we went over there and tasted their wine and just kind of fell in love with the lifestyle. And so we decided to look for a vineyard to buy. And there was one right next door to him. I think it was the old Chestnut Mountain Vineyard, which has been there for years. And so Craig said, yes, let's try to do that. And as he began doing his due diligence, as all lawyers do, he found out that those vines were diseased. So that was not a great place to grow grapes. It does not have the height with the cool nights and the warm days the way that we need here. So we just were traveling to Dahlonega to visit the old Blackstock Winery. And sure enough, right down the road, there was a beautiful piece of property that had been sitting unused for many years. And we were lucky enough to buy it. But you would not recognize this piece of property today from what it was. Yeah, Craig, it was like the Georgia DOT out here.
Yes, that's
for a
probably
year.
a good way of describing it. And what's the lead time between the time you start planting the vines to when you
need 3 years.
3 years, okay.
And then with red wines on the East Coast here, we like to keep them in their barrel for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of your lighter fruit, like Sangiovese, can have a 2-year barrel life.
And all of and this is for, I guess, the extreme novice maybe, the kinds of wine people will see in the sections of the grocery store or the package store or whatever, those are varieties of grapes.
They tend to be, but most importantly, what people have to understand when they go to a grocery store today, turn your bottle around to the back and look at and for the words vinted by, vinted and bottled by, and then go and look up what vinted by means. And you will find out that the winery whose name is on the front of the bottle had little or nothing to do with the making of that wine. They actually bought the wine bottled and put their label on it, or they bottled it themselves and put their label on it. But they did not make or produce that wine. It's very misleading.
I did not know that.
And Craig has become one of the 100 most influential people in the wine industry today because he preaches that fact, the importance of terroir. Terroir is the earth that your vineyard is on. And so when you taste Frogtown red wines, you taste their terroir. You can taste the earth in our wines. So very important for a vineyard to have its own terroir. So when we go buy wine at the grocery store, which they tend to be less expensive because that's what people are looking for, those bottles are not made by the vineyard whose name is on the front of the bottle.
Yeah, we picked up a little bit on this. I didn't frankly know how that worked, but that makes total sense because there are I don't want to get into dropping grocery chain names, but you can get literally the same wine with a different name for different prices at different stores.
Right. How strange is that?
How strange is that? Yes. It is funny. That makes sense now.
Right.
And it's one of those things. You should have like a hidden camera at the bar here where you see people who have not tasted your wine taste your wine for the first time.
Yes.
Because I've gotten to see several people here over the years, and everybody has the same reaction of like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is Georgia.
What is this?
Right.
What is this?
You'll love this story. A couple of years ago, Wine Business Monthly named us as one of the 10 top hot brands of the year. So they invited us to come pour in Sacramento to one of the big shows out there, the conventions. So we went, and they had a lovely space set up for all 10 of us, and people would come over to us. Mind you, most of them are from California over there, and they say, gee, we really like your wine the best. Where are you from? And I would say, Georgia, and their reply was, Georgia, USSR.
Yes, comrade.
Yeah, right. So that shows you how shocking it is for them to think that wine is grown in Georgia. And for us, we've won so many medals throughout the year that we go to contests and competitions that people taste their wines not knowing what vineyard you're from. So it's called a blind competition or a blind tasting, so that the people who are judging can't look at where you're from to judge your wine. They have to judge it by the way it tastes.
Yes, no label bias.
Right.
Yes.
Because if they saw it was from Georgia, they would probably think, oh, this wine is going to be sweet.
Right. I
mean, we Georgians are all sweet, but we don't necessarily want our wine sweet.
Any favorite memories from? I want to get into some of the awards that you all have won because it is like dumbfounding. Like you have been winning international awards.
Well, no, they're really national. We haven't put any wines into. Well, you could call them international competitions.
Yeah, international competitions.
Right, but we haven't sent our wines to France or Spain or anything. But they are international competitions.
But you've been winning those for years.
Years, right.
Years.
Actually, our 2002 propaganda actually won a silver medal, and it tied with Insignia that year. And there was no gold medal given that year.
How about that?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, that was the very first year Craig made wine. And we decided, gee, we really can make wine.
Yeah. That was the first year that...
Right, there were some 2001s made, and then 2002, the Propaganda, which is our flagship. We talked about Bordeaux. It's our flagship Bordeaux wine that we sent to competition that year, and it came home with a silver medal.
Wow. Made you feel pretty good?
Yes. And since then, I mean, we've been winning lots and lots of competitions and wines. And most importantly to us is when we go to California and bring home a double gold medal from California. This will be our 4th year in a row that one of our wines brought home a double gold. And at the San Francisco Chronicle, you have 6,700 entries that you're competing against.
Oh, my goodness.
And only 20 double gold medals are given.
Holy cow.
Yes, I'd say so.
6,700, and you're one of the top 20.
Right.
Wow. That is awesome. So I told you, I said, if they got a helicopter, you know it's legit.
Right.
So, rent a helicopter.
Right.
So, any favorite memories, favorite stories, as you think back, over your 20 years here now, that just make you smile every time?
Well, I think for me the most fun is when people say, where did the word Frogtown, your name Frogtown, come from? And a couple years after we did this, an Indian family came to us and said, our relative is buried on the property.
Really?
And where is he? And of course, years ago, they only put stones up for a gravesite, and so many years later, who knows where he is?
Right.
So we said to them, "Will you tell us where he is?" And they chose the sequoia tree. As they said, it's the sign of the Cherokee. So they had the Sons of the American Revolution came. They put a plaque in for him for serving in the American Revolution, and they also brought in all the old paperwork. And it didn't say that Abraham Helton was from Dahlonega or Cleveland or Blue Ridge or Appalachia. It said he was from Frogtown.
Wow.
And so looking into that, Frogtown was an area encompassed by Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And supposedly there were some stones that looked like a frog, and it became anglicized to Frogtown.
How about that?
But for me, Frogtown, even though frog is kind of derogatory to the French people, it still means French town to me. And because our wines are so French in their style, it's a perfect fit.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I don't think I had come across that in the years ago that I was more plugged into what you all are doing. So the wine thread runs in your family. So we talked a little bit about that before we started.
Yes, our daughter is a winemaker in California, in Paso Robles, and because she has two beautiful grandchildren of ours in Paso Robles, Craig decided that he would like to have a vineyard there also, so he could have a California label. And today we do have our first red wine, 100% grown, produced and bottled in our California vineyards, which are located in Adelaida and the Geneseo AVAs.
All right. I don't know where that is, but
yes.
It sounds very nice.
AVA is important. It's your viniculture area.
Okay.
And today too, because of Frogtown, Dahlonega has its own AVA.
How about that? Awesome.
It's the Dahlonega Plateau.
That is very cool. And I know that's not not by any means an easy feat.
No.
It's been many years in the works.
No, and to have your own AVA and be a part of that, all of your wine has to be grown, produced, and bottled in the AVA itself. And when you travel around to many of the wineries in the area, a lot of them bring in California fruit. And they don't realize that though it takes a lot of hard work, you can grow really premium grapes in this area of Georgia.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. So one of the things that you all have here, which I thought when you started doing it, I was like, this is absolute genius on so many different levels, is your soirees, but you have a wine, and I can't remember the name of it, so you can tell me.
The Citizens.
The Citizens, yes. That people who are in that, and that's something that they're interested in, they want to be more involved with, they can come and have some hands-on time here at the vineyard at different times in the year. So talk a little bit about some of these soirees, some of your, I know you just had a Valentine's event here.
Right.
Some of those things you have as reoccurring things in the calendar, and then some of the things for the Citizens.
Yes, we love our Citizens here at Frogtown. We get a lot of joy out of calling them Citizens, and their number one job at the bar is to talk other people into becoming citizens. And they do a great job.
A difficult job.
They really do a great job, and they're so proud of themselves, and we're proud of them too. But we do embrace them as family. They do get a discount on their wines and the food that is served here at Frogtown, which we're very proud of. This coming month, at the end of March, we'll have a soiree for our Citizens where they come in, we make them appetizers, and Craig will talk to them about some of the new wines, and they'll taste some of the new wines. They get to know Craig, they get to ask him questions, and they get to share in what's happening in the vineyards both here in California. So we would expect that we'll have over 100 people attending that soiree. And then as we go through the year, we do have special events, whether they're dinners that people are invited to, and especially let's talk about Harvest Day with
Yes.
Craig.
I
This
was
is
gonna-
the
you
big
already-
one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Harvest Day. 'Cause
Harvest
that's
Day
awesome.
is when you are here at 7 o'clock in the morning. We have a little light breakfast together. Then Craig hands out the harvesting tools, and we get to work. And so last year, our citizens harvested 7 tons of grapes.
Oh my gosh.
Which actually normally you pay people $1 a bucket or $2 a bucket to harvest. But for us, we give that money to the Wounded Warriors.
Awesome.
So they earned for the Wounded Warriors last year $2,000
That's awesome.
that our citizens were able to donate to them through us. And then we have a lovely lunch and we drink some wine. We have a town hall meeting with Craig where we have a lot of fun. And then we either go out and we harvest more or we process the fruit so that they get some hands-on experience with that. Then we let them rest for an hour or two if they want. If not, they can stay here and drink some wine. And then we have a big harvest dinner.
So it's a all-day affair.
It's an all-day affair,
Yeah.
and people just love it. Then they get to have their name on the bottles of wine
Oh, wow.
that are produced from the grapes that they harvested. So in 2019, that they have harvested Roussanne, and they harvested Cabernet Franc. So those will be the 2 wines that they will have their names on. Roussanne is due to come out, we hope, in May. And they're going to be so surprised about how wonderful that wine is. I can't wait for them to enjoy it.
Yeah. So when I first learned about that, that was one of those things. I'm like, that is it's so brilliant on so many levels and such a great idea. One, just from a business standpoint, because you're building the affinity with your brand, your organization, your location. You're giving people an education and some practical training on something that they care already about. And so you're kind of building that. And then to be able to do it here where it's just, spectacular. What a great idea. What a great day to be able to spend at a property like this, doing something where you feel like you're giving to a great cause. You're getting educated and informed and kind of growing in your personal knowledge about something that you're already passionate about. You're doing it with people who are like-minded, and you're building some friendships alongside.
Right, they do make friends at Frogtown.
Right, and that was one of the things that I shared. One of my kind of focal reasons for the heart behind the podcast was to build relationships with people and hopefully friendships for life. And whether it's with an organization like this, it's something that you're passionate about, whether it's wines or flying kites or whatever, or it's a nonprofit that you're passionate about, you're getting yourself plugged into an environment that you're surrounding yourself with people who you already have common ground with.
Right. And I think that it has a lot to do with the friendships that do build here.
Yeah.
They all are interested in wine. They all like to talk about wine, and they all want to drink wine.
Yes. Which, when let's be honest, when you've got the wine selection and it's the level that you all have here, that's kind of like a no-brainer.
Right. That's
an
something
easy box
that
to
we
check.
didn't talk about. We actually grow 23 varieties
23.
here. So Wine Club is never boring.
Wow.
In Wine Club, our citizens get the best. Sometimes other wine clubs will use it to perhaps get rid of wines that aren't that good.
Yeah.
But for us, Craig wants to give them only the best. They get all of our reserve bottles, and reserves are pretty much the only true varietals that we make. And when I say a varietal, I mean Cabernet Sauvignon that's called Cabernet Sauvignon. We have a lot of names like Shotgun, Propaganda, Applause, Merger. These are all blends of wine, and so they carry a fun name, where a varietal carries a varietal.
Yep.
All of our citizens, they're the ones who get that Reserve Cabernet, Reserve Merlot, etc.
What's one of your go-to wines just for something you love any day, every day?
Oh, well, people who know me well will say she always goes for the rosé.
Okay.
But in truth, different days, different wines taste better to me. And people will say, "What's your favorite wine?" And I will say, "Do you have children?" And then I will ask them, do you have a favorite?
Which is your favorite?
But the truth is that Craig doesn't bottle anything unless I like it.
Smart man.
Right. So my best days are the days when he comes in with a glass and says, taste this. What do you think? Those are the best days.
Yes.
Also, I want to talk a little bit about citizens have access to our library, which is outside. It took probably 5 years to build the library, which is beautiful, and it houses all of our own old wines from 2001 up.
Wow.
Right, and we do have tastings twice a month for our wine club members only to come in and perhaps do a tasting of 3 different propagandas, 3 different touches. It's all in there for them to taste and, of course, to buy those bottles if they want to.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was you guys have done that that side of the business so well. It's one of those things I'm like, why don't more people do stuff like this? Because you're really creating a win for your customers, and they feel.
And that's another reason too that we decided to make our food offerings larger. So during the winter months, we're just open for lunch on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But when time changes like it just did, in April, we will begin our Italian bistro at night also, where people can come in and have fresh pasta, which we make here, and pizza dough, which we make here, and some lovely Italian dishes. And the interesting thing is, where can you go buy a bottle of wine really priced in the 30s for a great bottle of wine and have a great dinner?
Yeah.
And this is what we're after, is to try to get people to realize that they don't have to pay $75, $80, $120 for a bottle of wine that's superior, but they can do that at the winery at Frogtown.
Right. Yeah, and that's such a great point, because your $30 bottle of wine is, I don't even say equivalent, it's probably better than what you're going to spend at a package store for an $80 or $90, $100 bottle of wine.
Right, and again, look at the back of that bottle. Chances are it's going to say vinted by, cellared by. And again, the vineyard on the front has nothing to do with making that bottle of wine. Something that the public needs to be educated about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Craig does his best.
Yeah. So as we kind of look in the next 5-10 years, any growth things you guys are looking for?
It'll be California-based for us. I'm sure the citizens here have embraced our California blends, where we blend our wine with our California fruit. And, of course, this first wine that just came out, that's 100% California, that Craig made. It truly is an interesting wine. It's so different from our wine, but it's a great way for our citizens to taste those wines at a reasonable price.
Any California field trips in the future?
Oh, yes. Craig is out there once a month and sometimes twice a month, just checking things out. Interesting, in California, you can hire labor to do whatever you need them to do. So that you can hire them to take care of the vineyard if you need it, hire them to harvest. Here, there aren't any of those companies available. You have to do it yourself.
Gotcha. Another thing, had no idea. Didn't even think about some of those practical elements of what you do. All right, so you've got the Italian bistro that's coming up. You mentioned, and you're also mentioning a brunch.
Right. Those, of course, we're open for lunch on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and brunch on Sunday from 12:30 to 2:30, and lunch goes on Sunday till 6 o'clock in the evening. So if you're in the area and you want to come by for a fresh pizza or a panini on Sunday afternoon late, we're here.
Are reservations needed for those events?
It's always good to, and certainly you can go online, and right at the top there's a place to book your table.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things I like to do before we end every episode is what I call the lightning round, which is a question that has nothing to do about anything. It's just a fun question. So today's lightning round question is, I got your feel good, which I've got 2 feel good songs, and you have to pick which one's better. So which is the better feel-good song of the decade, Dancing on the Ceiling by Lionel Richie or Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane?
I don't know either of those.
Oh, no. Oh, I don't know.
Right.
I've
So
got
you choose.
I've got them both on my playlist. I
Uh-huh.
can't. I really can't. That's why I asked you. I couldn't choose.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
both good, good songs. Let's talk about how people find you, your social media accounts, website, phone number. How
Yes,
do people get plugged in?
Frogtown.com.
Frogtown.com. Can't
Right,
get
that
easier
is
than
the
that.
main one. We're there, a lot of information on there. As I said, you can make a reservation to have lunch or dinner with us. And of course, you can even sign up to be a citizen online.
I was going to say, they
But
can get all the
best
information.
to come in and come to the bar and let us greet you and
Mm-hmm.
let us pour you some Frogtown wine and see if we can't talk you into becoming a citizen
Yeah.
and enjoy all these events with us.
Yeah, it won't be a difficult conversation. And honestly, if you've not been up this direction, we've done a number of episodes at this point up in this neck of the woods in Dahlonega and the surrounding area. You can make an awesome day or weekend trip out of it.
Yes.
And you're going to feel like you kind of know some of the owners of these operations, and it's going to be an absolutely awesome experience for you, especially if you've never been here. It's just going to take your breath away. The architecture of the property, how it's laid out, the views, all that is I mean, you're going to want to come back. So you might want to just have that conversation when you get here about the citizen.
Yes, that's right, because you get free tastings when you're a citizen.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Very
well,
important.
I know you got other stuff to do. I really appreciate your time. And with that, we'll let you go.
Okay, thank you so much.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.